What's up, Packer fans? Welcome into the Pack a Day podcast. I'm your host, Andy Herman. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. Appreciate you joining me today. Excited to go over day 2 of training camp. There were a couple pieces of news and notes that I want to go over first, but I'm hoping to spend the majority of my time today actually talking about practice, which there was some fun stuff to go over, so we'll get there in just a moment. But let's go over those few news items first. And let's start off with Aaron Rodgers. His contract is officially completed. Not a ton that's noteworthy here. It does have the potential to void after 2 years. I say the potential, it will void after 2 years. It's just some legal language there, but this will ultimately be a 2-year deal for Aaron Rodgers moving forward. His 3rd year will void eventually, and this still points to a potential trade in 2022. As far as any other concessions, there was no trade clause. There was nothing that guarantees Rodgers an out next year at any point. So this is a true 2-year deal left on Rodgers' contract. The big thing for Rodgers is Green Bay can no longer pursue any prorated portions of Rodgers' signing bonus, which is something they would have done had he retired early. So going forward, the Packers don't have the ability to do that. But really the big news here is another win for the Packers, which is something they had the ability to do all along. But they moved Rodgers' base salary into roster bonus, and signing bonus, which then prorates it out, which allows Green Bay to save money this year, push more money into the future, which allowed them to bring on Randall Cobb and Dennis Kelly, and more importantly, allow them to have their 53-man roster this season and actually have a full practice squad and be able to make moves throughout the course of the season when players get hurt, which Brian Gutekunst in his press conference on Thursday basically said before doing that they didn't have the ability to kind of do some of the things that they need to do through the course of the season. So that frees up everything there. But overall, nothing too noteworthy that wasn't already kind of discussed and expected to be a part of that deal. And really the only couple wins for Rodgers were the void year. And again, that Green Bay can't go after some of that bonus money. So those were the noteworthy items with Rodgers' contract. Of course, the other piece of information or news or noteworthy item, I guess, is that Randall Cobb not only back at practice, but did the post-practice press conference as well. And listen, of all this saga, right? Green Bay was not going to go after Randall Cobb if it weren't for Aaron Rodgers, and we'll get to that more in a moment. They didn't need Randall Cobb at this point. They didn't want to spend a draft pick and that money on Randall Cobb at this point in his career. They have a pretty deep stable of wide receivers, which again we'll also get into later in this podcast. But overall, just seeing Randall Cobb at that podium and back in green and gold during practice today, it's almost impossible not to fall in love with Randall Cobb and him being back as a Green Bay Packer. And talk about having a juxtaposition between Rodgers' press conference and Randall Cobb's press conference. Rodgers, maybe somber is not the right word, but it certainly wasn't jubilant, and it was obviously very serious, and there was a lot that came out of that. Randall Cobb was just pure joy and jubilation, and he said he could breathe again because he's now back with the Green Bay Packers, and it was just a pure excitement. And again, as a fan, I don't know how you can't watch Randall Cobb and just be excited that he's back in Green Bay in some capacity, even if it doesn't make any sense. How do you not love Randall Cobb being a Green Bay Packer, right? It just feels right. It feels right that he's back in Green Bay. And I think the great thing about Randall is he said flat out, like, whatever role he has, he doesn't need to be, getting a ton of catches, a ton of yards, a ton of targets. Like, whatever his role is, he's happy with it. He's willing to accept it. He knows he's in his 30s and, just wants to go out there and help the team, which is exactly what you'd expect Randall Cobb to say. So that was another noteworthy item. And of course, great seeing him out on the field as well. Played catch with Devontae Adams. He had a chat with Aaron Rodgers, had a chat with Mark Murphy, was chatting it up with a variety of people as he kind of made his way back. So really cool to kind of see that out on the field. And, I think the craziest aspect of anything that happened on Thursday that I just wasn't expecting is Brian Gutekunst flat out came out and said, yeah, Aaron Rodgers is the reason Randall Cobb is in Green Bay right now. So his exact quote, "I don't think without Aaron we would be pursuing him. This was a very important thing for Aaron, and that's why we did it." So make no questions about this. This is not a player that Green Bay had interest in acquiring. They acquired him to appease Aaron Rodgers. No bones about it. Like, we all knew that, right? But we are obviously in a very honest period of the Green Bay Packers where Aaron Rodgers and Brian Gutekunst are holding very few, if any, punches at this point and are just telling it like it is. And whether that's good for the long term of that relationship and the Green Bay Packers is debatable, but it's a little bit refreshing just to kind of hear the truth and how people are thinking and not have a bunch of GM and coach speak and player speak where we're going to keep everything in house. Everything is very much out there and transparent at this point, including the fact that Brian Gutekunst is saying we would not have had this player on our team had it not been for Aaron Rodgers. So again, feel how you may about that, but it was really cool to see Randall Cobb back in a Green Bay jersey. Speaking of Brian Gutekunst's press conference, the other aspect of his press conference that he talked about, the other noteworthy aspect of it was Davante Adams being paid as the number one wide receiver in football, which he agreed with. He said, I agree Davante Adams should be, and I'm paraphrasing here, but Davante Adams should be the number one paid wide receiver in football. He's earned that. However, as we've discussed, as I talked about Davante Adams' contract, a handful of days ago, and on yesterday's podcast, I talked about this as well, figuring out what the number one wide receiver contract is difficult. Well, who is the number one paid wide receiver? And as we talked about, Hopkins screwed everything up, and it's not really a new contract. His was an extension, 2 years on top of Arizona's contract. If you put his whole Arizona contract deal together, it's closer to 20 mil per season, not 27. That's a big difference. If you go down from Hopkins, Julio Jones, 22 million, which I'm sure is where Green Bay would be more willing to have that discussion. And I guarantee you Adams wants to be closer to that 27.5, which is why you have a major disconnect between the Packers and Davante Adams at this point. So how that gets resolved remains to be seen, but Brian Gutekunst confirmed exactly what we've been talking about, that there's a difference of opinion as to what the number one wide receiver contract in the NFL actually is. All right, let's go to practice, and let's start off with the moment of the day, the absolute best moment of the day, and there's zero debate here. Yes, it was great to see Randall Cobb, but as everyone on the sidelines is working to get their picture of Randall Cobb back at number 18, green and gold, etc., all the videographers and the media guys, trying to get it out on Twitter, myself included, and everyone's trying to get their shot and whatever. Out comes everyone from the tunnel, and I see an alert on my phone, and Matt Schneidman from The Athletic tweets out, Bakhtiari's back, and I see a couple other, and there's buzz on the sideline, David Bakhtiari's back practicing. Obviously, this is huge news, right? Yes, Randall Cobb is back, but if Bakhtiari is activated from the PUP list and practicing with the team, that is a significant piece of news, lending yourself to believe that he will be ready to go week 1. So as I'm walking, I get the picture of Cobb, I post it to Twitter. As I'm walking down to the offensive lineman, I hear Rob Domofsky yell, "It's not him." And before I even get down to the offensive lineman, and because they were still trying to figure out what was going on, before I see it, I knew immediately. As soon as I heard it's not him, I knew. But we discussed, obviously, Dennis Kelly looking like David Bakhtiari. I knew without a shadow of a doubt exactly what happened, that Dennis Kelly was wearing David Bakhtiari's jersey. And just a plus troll by David Bakhtiari to have Dennis Kelly go out and not just like a Packers 69 jersey that said like Kelly or just didn't have a nameplate on it. It was a 69 David Bakhtiari jersey. And he's got the long hair coming out. And remember, there's 90 Packers that are sprinting out of that, out of the Hudson Center to go to the practice field. And everyone's watching for Randall Cobb, and all of a sudden you see number 69 flash out of your eye, who looks basically the exact same if you're not looking closely, and you see him go to the offensive line and start doing reps. Yeah, everyone is going to be tweeting out David Bakhtiari's back. Like, what else are you possibly thinking? But it didn't take long to figure out that it, of course, was not David Bakhtiari and that it was, in fact, Dennis Kelly. And again, just an A-plus troll. Kudos to David Bakhtiari. Kudos to Dennis Kelly for pulling that off. Later in the practice, Kelly had his actual jersey on, but cool to see. On that same note, talking about Randall Cobb and Dennis Kelly, neither player practiced with the team. So both of them went through individual drills. Neither practiced with team. Now, it was later found out that neither had like their helmets yet and some things like that. So my guess is that's why. And I would expect on Friday that they start getting integrated back with the team activities and things like that. But still great to see both of those guys out on the field, and just again an A-plus effort from Kelly and Bakhtiari to pull one over on just about everyone. All right, let's get to actual practice here. My player of the day, Juwann Winfree. He had a handful of catches. He had a deep ball catch to start practice, to start team activities, I should say, from Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers to Juwann Winfree. He caught balls late in the developmental period from Jordan Love. I want to say he had like five-ish catches throughout the course of the day. And I'll be the first to admit, like when everyone at OTAs, mini camps was talking about Juwann Winfree, I was still pretty skeptical. And to some extent, I'm not all in on Juwann Winfree yet. I just think he lacks maybe some of the physical gifts that are probably needed, especially to crack this wide receiver room. But there's zero question that he has improved as a route runner. He is feeling more confident. He is getting open. Like he's doing the things that he needs to. Now, the difficult thing for Juwann Winfree is there are 5 wide receivers that are guaranteed roster spots, in my opinion. You've got Devontae Adams, Allen Lazard, MVS, and then obviously you've got Amari Rodgers and then Randall Cobb. So those 5, to me, are locks to make the team. I don't think any of those guys are going anywhere. That number 6 spot, you still have guys, and that's if they keep 6, which I do think they will. You've got Devin Funchess. You've got Malik Taylor, who was the number 6 last year, who is also a core special teams player for him, which is very important to the number 6 wide receiver spot. You've got Equinemius St. Brown. Like you could have a legit competition just between those 3 guys for the number 6 spot. Now you've got Juwann Winfree. Bailey Gaither had a nice day at practice with a leaping catch and has really looked nice throughout OTAs and mini camps. Like that number 6 spot is just insane at the moment to try to crack. Now, maybe injuries or other things will make that a little bit easier over time. Maybe they end up trading a wide receiver at some point because of the depth that they have. Who knows? But Juwann Winfree has his work cut out for him, but he's doing everything in his power to get his name in the conversation. He's going to have to crush special teams to really get in that conversation because listen, those top 5 guys are going to be the top 5 guys that are actually on the field. So the number 6 wide receiver they're not getting on the field, right? Like the only way they're getting on the field is special teams. So it almost doesn't matter what Juwann Winfree does as a wide receiver. Like he's going to have to crush special teams to even get in that conversation and then also show that he can be a good receiver. But a great day for him. I thought Jordan Love struggled. He did have a really nice play to Devin Funchess, threw a ball on a rope, made a really quick read. Jack Heflin knife through, I should say, right away for a would-be sack. So the play would have been dead, but it wasn't any fault of Love's, and he was right to just continue the play. And had Heflin not knifed through and got it, quote-unquote, sack, it was a great read and a great throw, just like a quick slant over the middle to Devin Funchess. But that was a really nice play. But outside of that, some inconsistencies, threw behind Kylan Hill on a play, threw Kylan Hill on another play, which resulted in a Ty Summers interception. So just some of those inconsistencies. And those inconsistencies are there that you also see the flashes, the Funchess play I just mentioned, the Amari Rodgers touchdown on Wednesday's practice. He also had a nice touchdown to Kylan Hill in Wednesday's practice in red zone. So you're starting to see flashes, but the consistency still isn't there. So that's something that Jordan Love is still going to have to continue to work on. I thought Kenny Clark and Mercedes Lewis both had great days. I thought Kenny Clark was active in the middle, shutting down the run game. I also thought he had a really nice pressure that probably would have been a sack in team activities. So he looks great so far to start training camp. And Mercedes Lewis, at his age, he is a legitimate offensive lineman out there. He had blocks against Rashawn Gary where you would have felt like this. There's Jason Spriggs wouldn't, in his best days, would not have come close to doing what Mercedes Lewis did in practice against Rashawn Gary. He is so good at what he does as a blocker, pass blocker, run blocker. It doesn't matter. I think it was A.J. Dillon who had a really nice run off tackle between Billy Turner and Mercedes Lewis. Like just a really, really nice day for Mercedes Lewis. I know like the run blocking tight end is normally not going to be one of your MVPs of practice. He absolutely was, and he just looked fantastic doing it. Again, no pads yet, but still a really nice day for Clark and Lewis. The play of the day that I want to discuss in a little bit greater detail, I'm going to give you everyone else's account first because I'm hoping that I'm wrong on this. Davante Adams gets deep downfield. Aaron Rodgers throws an absolutely gorgeous pass just outside the outstretched fingertips of Darnell Savage. Adams shows late hands, comes down with it, goes for about a 60-yard touchdown. Awesome play. That's how the majority of people that were there were reporting on it from different angles. How I saw it was a little bit different. Davante Adams made a great play regardless. I thought he got great jump off the line of scrimmage on Jair Alexander, beat him. Then Alexander held him back, in my opinion. And then Adams still kind of broke loose, but then had to wait for what I thought was a little bit of an underthrown ball. Meanwhile, Darnell Savage from the single high safety made a perfect read on the ball, got over there, and in my opinion, because the ball was underthrown, should have had an interception or at least knocked away the ball, but missed it. And then it ended up in the waiting hands of Davante Adams, who just caught it and walked in for a touchdown. So if I'm wrong, which again, I really hope that I am, and again, these things happen fast. Everyone's got a different angle, so who knows? But if I'm wrong, great throw by Rodgers, great route by Adams, great read by Savage, but it was just too good of a throw that he couldn't get his fingertips on it. Probably not the best play from Jair Alexander, right? So let's hope that's the way that it went. If I'm right, which again, I'm hoping I'm not, underthrow by Aaron Rodgers, poor coverage by Alexander, missed play by Darnell Savage, still a great play by Davante Adams. So read into it what you will. Either way, great play by Davante Adams, so we'll go with that. And I think at the end of the day, Rodgers, Adams, Savage, Jair, 4 great players who are all going to be fine, so it's not like this is going to define anyone's career here. But it was either way, it was the play of the day, a big touchdown from Rodgers to Davante Adams. Really, a couple other really quick ones. TJ Slayton on one run play going up against Jake Hansen and Simon Stepaniak. Now, anytime there's a double team, 2 offensive linemen versus a defensive lineman, you want a good amount of movement on that player to open up a gap, open up a hole, whatever it is you're trying to do. And on this specific play, Hansen and Stepaniak double teaming Slayton, not only did they not move him, TJ Slayton got movement into the backfield on them. So that's the type of player that TJ Slayton is, that he's not only holding up against double teams in that situation. Now, again, pads not on, not like Jake Hansen and Simon Stepaniak are the most, tenured veterans in the world, but it's a double team from that side of the ball that Slayton's just eating and actually getting a little bit of penetration into the backfield against. That is big time stuff if he's able to do that against better players when the pads come on. Time will tell, but you still love seeing those little flashes early from TJ Slayton. A.J. Dillon, I mentioned the run that he had earlier. He continues to show a really nice, I don't even know if improvement's the right word, because I think he flashed it a season ago as well. He has really soft hands and has the ability to pluck the ball out of the air. So for all the talk of like A.J. Dillon's not a good receiver, like we'll see, and it doesn't mean that just because he has great hands, doesn't mean he can go out and run routes and things like that, but he showed off his hands on a couple different occasions, and he has the ability, in my opinion, to be a very natural hands catcher, and it seems like something he's been working on, and he's plucking the ball out of the air. So I'm excited about that. And I think Dexter Williams has had a really nice start to training camp as well. Everything that he's doing, he's making good reads. He's bouncing off defenders. Now everyone's bouncing off defenders because they're not tackling, but even still, like how he's just kind of navigating the defense, I've been impressed with so far. So I think he's had a nice start to camp, and what's a very pivotal training camp for Dexter Williams as well. That's it for my observations. Again, remember, no pads yet, so still take this with a grain of salt until pads come on. It's basically like a glorified OTA session at this point, and it's just kind of going through installs, but you still like seeing players flash and do well, and I think we saw some of that. So those are my key observations from Thursday. I'm going to be back at practice on Friday. I'll have my observations obviously for you tomorrow, so make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. But until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.